In this video, we are going to copy this post base to all other posts automatically. So to do this, we are going to use several functions and especially a tool that will always be good help for this. It's what we call the container block. So the container block is an advanced feature that is linked to the container that is it's a volume to which you can assign views and sections and a content, leading to advanced shop drawings, such as the one we have seen in the PDF from the previous video. We could also achieve this copy by simply copy this element to the rest of the post, but the container block allows you to create a link in between this assembly in order for you to be able to modify one and modify all the link ones. So we are going to have a look at this new element and how to use it properly. So here the first thing that we are going to do is adding the a container onto this assembly. So you have, if you are using the init v28 provided at a Cadwork installation, you will have access to a scene called export tools with export solid and containers inside. And we are going to use this blue box called a container named WA1. You can also call these elements by going to Vision, Type, Container, and WA1. So here you are calling only the container on your screen. Just note that this kind of element, export solid, container, and container block, once hidden as any other element, won't come back when you press J. For this, you will need to go in Tools and Configuration Control J. And here you will see at the bottom, you are able to click this kind of element to be brought back or hidden when you use the Control J command. You can also see that you can assign other type of element if you want it. So here you can see that if I press Ctrl J, I display or hide my elements. I'm going to hide this export solid, and we are going to move this container onto that connection. So here I want it to be centered on it, so I will just select this and 5 to move, W vector, M for the middle point of this diagonal, so I have the middle point of that face, and the target point is actually the middle of my post at the level of this cut. So M again, and here I will also select the diagonal of this cut. And here we are. So this is a container that is already set. If we go in Vision and Container Views, you can see that some views are already assigned to it. So this allows you to move quickly to the export. So export, shop drawing, and container. You will see that this one is already set, meaning that all views and section have been assigned to different pages. We choose an output format. So this is again the same as all the basic export you used to until now, but this one you can just place several views or sections on the same page, and each of them have the same settings that you may already be familiar with from the more classic export. Apply, okay. And here the only thing that we need to be able to export is to have a content. So after selecting the container, you can go to Modify, Define Content, Automatic, will only assign what is entirely within the export solid, but here we are missing our threaded rods and the concrete base. So just manual, and here you can actually select element with your lasso. Be careful to not grab the post as I just did here. So just middle click, it works exactly as a normal selection, and here we are. So if we try to export this, so container, so it will compute all the different views. Here you see that I always see my views on my elements. If I want to hide this or activate them, I can go to vision and just to use that option, or use the shortcut Control G this time. So here let's move to 2D and just paste the result with 3 and the clipboard was 1. Let's paste it here. So here we have the same views that we had in the PDF, with each time the scale that is used for each individual drawing with their names, etc., and additional information brought in from the 3D. Here we won't go really in depth in the shop drawing export setting, and we are going to focus mostly on container blocks. So here we used an existing container on this selection, but we could have added a new one. So here I would just hide this one. So to add a container on something, you just need to activate your content and go to add container. And here you have different ways of adding container. So either standard container, this will use one of your libraries, so you can create your own containers. This is really nice because standard container can have like preset export settings, so all your views and everything will be set. And here we will simply use automatic. Automatic container will create a container aligned with the global system axis. In our case, that's perfect. It's exactly the same orientation. So, and yeah, this is something specific because my content is already assigned to a container, but I would just go yes. And here you can choose the color, the name, and here you can add views. So the views, you can either add 3 standard views, so X, Y, Z, and 1 axonometry, all standard views, or add them manually by giving them name and choose orientation. But again, we won't go really in depth in this. So now that I retrieve my container, I just make sure that my content is still correct. So manual, okay, that's perfect. Okay, and now before doing anything, I'm going to quickly change the name of this element. We will be using it later on. So this should be a knife plate and not only a plate. We will understand why next. If I want to copy these elements to the rest of the post, I will use something called copy reference. This copy reference allows you to copy element based on a reference element. So you can select one reference, it could be in that case that post, and then the target ones will be all the remaining posts. But the thing with this is that it takes into account first the system axis, so it needs to be the same, and also how the element is placed or oriented. It means that if I simply create a copy reference from this post to this post, we can clearly see that they are not that don't have the same length. So my container will be actually placed at that location. So let's just try that. So here I will select my container, 6 to copy, H as reference. I want to select this one, right click to confirm, and left click on my target, right click to confirm. And here, when you copy a container alone, it asks you if you want also to move its content. So here I would say yes with the right click. check connector axis. So here we just say no. And okay, so here you see these elements are not correctly placed. So here we have something to fix before moving forward. So to do so, we'll simply select all posts, actually select by name, and select this one. We make sure that the active point is at the top, and C to cut along Z, and left click on this post. So now every post have the same level. And here I didn't see that this pipe was also selected, so let's undo and select the pipe and CZ, and here we reselect the bottom of that post. Perfect. So now that we have this, we can select the container 6H from this one, right click to confirm, and then we copy it to this one, just make this at the moment, and right click to confirm. So here, yes, we want to copy its content, no for the connector axis configuration in that case. Why I press no to the axis configuration? It's just because axis configuration, as we've seen in the previous video, connector axes are directly linked to the element they are crossing. And if we have collision between elements, connector axes that cross this element won't be able to be generated, as we can see this one here at the top, unlike here where we can see the pins, the plugs, etc. So it means that before updating this configuration, I need to cut the knife plate in my post. And here we won't do this now, we will do it when we will use the container block, because here the difference between container and container block is the content of container block is locked and will be and remain identical in all containers from the same copy. So when you copy a container block, all generated container will be linked to this one. So if you change the content of one, you change the content of every other ones. And here you can see that I can easily select elements and delete them without changing any of the content of the other ones. So let's just undo this. So to change a container into a container block, it's really easy. You just need to select it and go to Modify, Option, Container into Container Block. By doing this, it will change the representation used for the elements assigned to the container, and you can no longer modify them. So this is why they are represented in dashed lines, even if visible, and in rendering, they are transparent and do not display material or texture. As you can see here, they just use the color from the elements. So now if I want to select something or delete something, for example, if I want to delete this element, I cannot. And here it says current selection includes container block. Should they be deleted with all their content? So no, this is not what we want. And if we try here to modify something, so with one, it automatically jumps to the container block because element inside cannot be modified, only container block can be, except for connector axis. Connector axis, even when assigned to container block, you can access their configuration to change or edit what is already set. So now that we have this, let's just keep all the posts only. So it's would say name and material. So like this, we don't select the pipe, and we select the container. So here to copy, we can just select that container block, 6 to copy, H reference. We take this one and then we copy it on all other ones. So here with the lasso line with Control Shift and right click to confirm. Here still no for the connector axis configuration. And here the third thing we are going to do is deal with the collision between the knife plate and the post. So if you remember what we used to create this, we used the cut tolerance and that is assigned to the knife plate. So here we'll simply select by name knife plate and use that tolerance to cut all the posts. So C to cut, O for tolerance, and here we're going to select one post, and here we will select all the other posts pretty easily using the Control A, using the attribute of the first selected one, and use name, activate. So like this, we select all the posts and right click to confirm. There is already a tolerance predefined. Would you like to consider it? Yes. And since the collision has been dealt with, now we can update the connector configuration. So yes, so here if we zoom in, we do have exactly the same result as this one. So we have all the pins that have been correctly generated, and this for all posts. If at one point we want to change something about um, about the connection, and for this let me just copy this over. 6y minus 5 feet. Yep. Okay, so here if I want to change something, here this is really important. If I want to uh, modify this, what I need to do is release the content, so just remove the container block. So if I go modify, option, and unlock container blocks, now of course I can select this and modify, do anything, but it's now unlinked to the other ones. So even if I do anything in here, I select something, I change anything, I add something to that container, it won't affect the other ones because they are now unlinked. And even if I turn it back into a container, it's too late. Here, what I did is just creating another set of container blocks or type of connection. So here I would just select delete this, okay, and focus on the other ones. So if I want to edit what is assigned to a container block, what we need to do is change the content, because this is what we see in dashed lines. So what is assigned to the container block is the content. So if the container block don't have any content, then we are free to modify anything we need. So modify, define content, and here just delete. By deleting the content, of course, all the other one will be emptied. So here we can do any modification we need. So here I won't do any modification to that post. We will leave it this way, but once the modification is done, just go back to the container block, modify, define content, manual, and simply reassign what you want. And by doing this, you can also add new elements to an existing container block or connection. When a container block is copied, you can also give them numbers. The numbers will be the same for all linked container, and of course all container that have or container block that have the same content will have the same number. So here if we go export list, production list, calculate, and here we will calculate only the containers, okay, and give them a number like from 100 for example. You could see that I had only one position. So if I select by position number, all these are the same ones. And of course, if I want to, I will hide them, keep only their content. And of course, but the concrete, this I will hide because I don't want to give production number to the concrete. And export list, production list, calculate. All elements in all containers will have the same production numbers because of course they are the same elements. So here, when you have a container, there is several things to know in order to manage them. So when you select a container, so you can use Control A and then J to select the part assigned to the container, so you automatically select its content. And you can also do the opposite, so when you select an element, Control A, Shift J, Shift G, excuse me, G and Shift G to select the linked container. So when you have a container and you go to Export Shop Drawing and Container, you see that you have only one export even if you have several containers because they are linked, they are the same. So here they are sorted by production number, so production number 100. And here if we look a bit closer to the settings that we have, so when you have a container or export solid, the export works exactly the same way. So you can create new pages and you can choose the number of views and section or drawing that you want to add for each page, and you just need to glide your element at specific location. Notice that one view can be assigned to different pages and have different settings. You can also delete page, deactivate them, etc. by right-clicking on the page. One other thing interesting with container other than the um, than the model and the shop drawing is the list. So here, if I, for example, select all my container and all its content, Control A, G, can go export, list, production list, list output. And this will give me information about my container. So I know exactly its size. I could add its weight, for example. So I can see the weight of one of my connection. And here inside I can see exactly what is needed for this connection. So I have a concrete base, well, that we can display or not, knowing that this is an auxiliary element that maybe we won't need because it will always be on site. We will just apply the steel element onto that concrete base. So we'll just go in the settings here and to visible elements and simply check auxiliary elements. By doing this, we will remove the concrete line. Then we have all the VBAs that are connector axes. So we have information about the element and the the element added onto it. So this, again, if you go in visible elements, you can hide the containers. So this will look like a normal list. So just of the element with just the element selected. And also you can display connector axes. This will also give you like a drop down for connector axes, meaning the pins. I have 24 of them and basic information, and if I unfold this, each pin is built with one pin 3/4 and two 3/4 plugs. And here the same for the threaded rod. I always have one thread, three nuts, and one washer. So always think about changing the visible element to change the way your information or data are sorted in your list. That can be pretty interesting. Okay, so that is all to know with the container block. So again, the last things to really be careful about is never unlock containers if you just want to modify its content. Define content, delete, do your modification, and reassign the content. Like this, you are sure that you will keep the link in between all your connections.